in action. Rules that keep things going smoothly and fairly. Rules that help us get where we're going. Help us work together, play together, and live together. Of course, in small groups, we sometimes get along without rules.
But there aren't any loud noises, just the sounds of working. We call these work sounds. Listen.
When many of us play together, rules make the game. Rules help us play fair with each other, so all can enjoy the game. Rules that apply equally to all. It's up to each one of us to know the rules and follow them.
Why do you suppose this room is so quiet? Perhaps we can learn from the teacher.
At New York's Madison Square Garden, a city college quintet faces five fast and fancy wet teams from the University of Oregon. It's the opening contest of an intersectional doubleheader, and New York scores 2 points worth of fresh blood.
And you know, we have found that knowing when to be quiet is a part of growing up.
16,000 fans watch the boys from the Pacific Coast as they try to stem the onslaught of City College fever. But it's all over when Silverstein shoots off the hardwood, decades the ball, and the ball game for CCNY 38-36.
Because a quiet room helps all of us learn.
How do you do it?
Well, each of us knows how to work quietly. That's very important.
But the evening sport is a long way from the locker room. In the second game, a team of Northwestern Wildcats is matched against St. John's University of Brooklyn. The lads from Illinois are off to a springboard start when Bob Coble eases Allen into the basket to take the lead.
Do you think you could walk this quietly? Listen to this work sound.
But tribal warfare comes to the gymnasium as the St. John's Indians retaliate with 2 points. From now on, the game is touch and go, with 10 men hoping to get it there. A beautiful display of teamwork, and Northwestern gets in the number column with sharp shooting Bob Coble doing the honors.
Hello everyone, Michael Jordan fans are the best, and we're back with Learn the Game with Politicus Rex, as we're going to be talking about why we love basketball and what makes it so great. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since we've had this show for numerous reasons. But besides that, you having the experience and the knowledge of the history of the game, you and your experience of playing the game at a higher level, for you, I'm sure there's a numerous amount of reasons why you love the game. But what is the biggest reason why basketball is so great?
Versatility. It's literally the only sport that I can think of that you can play by yourself, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. You can play full court, half court. You can play, 21. You can play horse or a variation of that. You can have 3-point shooting contests. You can have dunk contests, free throw shooting contests. There's just so many different variables. You can literally go from never playing before to being able to make your school team without ever actually playing a game before you get there, by constantly practicing the fundamentals and studying the game. You can literally go to a tryout and have an honest attempt at making the team just off what you've developed on your own. What other sport can you do that other than like maybe a kicker in football?
Yeah. But I think to your point, to play the game relatively in its entirety, or all of the skills of the game in its entirety with one person, I really can't think of another one off the top of my head, because a lot of other games have different roles and different positions and different rules.
Exactly. And the thing is, with basketball, skill level does not matter. It's the same game whether you're playing at the absolute most elite level of the NBA, or if kids are playing in a driveway 2-on-2.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same game. Nothing's changed. Now you can change whatever you want. You can change the height of the basket. You can change the size of the ball. You can change rules. If you're half court, you can say, losers out or make it take it. 3-point line, no 3-point line. A lot of times on the playground, a regular field goal will be 1 point, and then a 3-pointer will be 2 points. You can change the rules on the fly as you go. If you got one great player playing with a bunch of mediocre players, you can play 4-on-5. You can play 2-on-3. I used to always play 1-on-2. When I could get my friends together when I was young, we would actually play 1-on-4, full court, where 2 guys were full-time defenders, 2 guys were full-time on offense, and then I played all 4 and I played full court.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make up any scenario and still and still have a good game. It's the only game that you can completely balance for the people and the number of participants.
Yeah, what makes it great for me, and I think that's a fantastic point, and what makes it great for me is relatively that same word for different reasons. The versatility, not that I don't agree with that aspect of why it makes basketball great, but I like the versatility of the exercise and how you can play the game, because you can, a lot of games, a lot of players, a lot of rules are centered around some foundational pieces. So generally, if you're a runner or a running back in football, you're going to be running the ball or you're going to be blocking. Yes, you can catch it, you can do some things, but generally speaking, that's your role. With basketball, it doesn't matter your size. You're going to be playing every aspect of offense or defense, and you can overwhelm or win or be successful by being physical or having finesse, by either beating people off the dribble as a guard or even as a bigger person. It's role agnostic. So you're able to go and do the same things versus somebody that traditionally would have another role, particularly playing a pickup game or casually. Not that you can't do it on a game otherwise, if an organized game. But the point of it is that what makes it so great is that you're able to win in a variety of ways. Playing one-on-one, I guess, is the greatest example, is that's you have to be able to do everything by yourself. But being able to shoot the ball from distance, being able to get underneath the basket, use your physicality, use your finesse on offense and defense to be able to overwhelm your opponent and win the game. I think that's the greatest thing, because you have to showcase your skill set. And like I previously mentioned, in a one-on-one environment, that I think is the greatest example, at least of an individual skill set or what you're doing yourself outside of the team aspect of it, of passing the ball and playing off the ball. That's a whole separate thing. But in respect to individual skill sets, I think that's the showcase of being able to show the versatility in the game of being able to play physical, being able to play with grace per se, and then overwhelm your opponent and win the game.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I learned along the way is that the game gets so much more fun and so much more interesting, and just, I don't even know the right word. It almost feels, for lack of a better term, because I can't think of a word, mystical, is when you learn how to help your team succeed without an impact on stats.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is, when I first got into basketball, I was a high jumper and a long jumper. And I was put on the basketball team purely because of my athletic ability. I was no good. So I had to try and fit in. And the only way I found success was by doing the jobs that other guys didn't want to do. When the coach would have a play and like we'd set a screen here and then a back screen there to try and free up a certain player, or we'd be in the early scrimmages, like we would go against the varsity, and of course we're going to get destroyed. But everyone would be afraid of the better players on varsity, and they'd be afraid to body them or actually, test them. And I'm like, well, I got nothing to lose. If I get shown up, I'm already the last guy on the team. So I would go and I'd box out our center. I'd box out, a small forward or power forward as a little guard. I'd scrap for the ball. I'd, intentionally foul, because that's what they were doing to our best players in real games in the varsity season. So I spent a lot of time in practice pushing and hacking and all that, not because that's how I played, but because to help prepare the varsity guys, because that's what they were going to face. We knew it was coming. So I would do those type of things, not, thinking that it's the only way I could help, not realizing that the coach was paying attention and understood what I was doing. And I was learning to play as a helper. See, here's the thing when you look at the NBA. There are two different types of players in the NBA. It's players who have always been the best.
Mm-hmm.
They were the best player in Little League, in AAU, in Church League, in middle school, high school. When they went to college, if they went to college, if they went at all, one and done, whether they played, whatever it is, they were the best players. And they move up through the ranks. But with the expansion of the NBA and the expansion of rosters, the logic behind team building became different. And it was like they lessened the draft. Instead of having 11 rounds, 9 rounds, stuff like that, they went down, 3 rounds and 2 rounds. So more free agents were able to go to tryouts and show teams what they can do without having the highlight reel. So you get players that are the ones like LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, these guys that you heard of back in high school. And you saw at Syracuse with Carmelo, and then come into the NBA. You knew who he was. Everyone knew who he was. LeBron, everyone knew who he was when he was 16. But then you got guys that are in the NBA for 15 years that you never heard of, because they were role players and they understood, and this is something I understood, that when you go to a team, there's only one alpha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you can either be the alpha and do everything. I always saw when guys would try out at higher level teams, they'd try to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Or they would try to be LeBron. They would try to be Magic. They try and show their whole repertoire during tryouts. And I always told guys in the huddles and in the locker room, look, the team is looking, they already have their team. These open tryouts are to fill out the roster. They're looking for people who can fulfill a role. They already got a guy that averages 24 a game. They don't want a guy that can, that you're sitting here trying to score every time, trying to show your score. They already got that. They don't want to. You're just taking away from the guy that they're built the whole team around. They won't want you. They want someone that can fulfill a role. They want someone that can frustrate the defense, frustrate the other team's offense. And you also got to realize, guys, when we get in the game, I'm not going to be going against the other team's star. I'm going to get put in the game when the other team puts in their sub. So I don't have to frustrate an all-league player or an all-conference player. I have to frustrate their sub, make him completely ineffective. That will help my team in the game. If I go in with 2 minutes to go in the first quarter and they sub out and they put their sub in at the same time, if I can just make his life hell for these 2 minutes, then he's going to play less in the second half and their starter's going to have to play more minutes. He gets in foul trouble maybe, there's an issue. He gets a little fatigued, there's an issue that I have helped. I have assisted my team. I've created an imbalance, and that's what you want to do. And so many guys try to be the star every time they step on the court. And that is a mistake in learning how to play the game.
And I think to your point as well, is creating dilemmas, whether it's on the court or on the bench, that the coach has to make a decision in a strategic sense. It's a fantastic way to affect the game and enable the winning of your team in that particular instance. And I think also you're talking about this being a helper. I think it kind of goes into the general aspect of being a team player. And another reason why I think basketball is so great is because when you're passing the ball, when you're playing off the ball, when you're not directly in action on the play in respect to you having the ball or defending it, on the ball, the aspect is that there's so many things that can be done to enable scoring or stopping the scoring of the ball. And to your point, a lot of people, this is a sidebar, this is what makes basketball not so great, at least at the NBA level, is sometimes it appears that a lot of people don't care for it. But what I think makes it great is the capability to go and affect the game by being aware of people around you. If you're on offense, to be able to pass to them on a cut, to be able to pass to them off of a screen, be able to, and everyone knows these basic plays, the pick and roll, the give and go, all of these kind of aspects, and then the people surrounding them that can affect that main play to be able to score on offense. And then on defense, just understanding coverages and understanding that you may need to help somebody. And again, for a game like football, generally speaking, you are in a role, period. A lineman is not going to get off the line and start doing deep zone coverage. Or
there are guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that never touched a football.
Yep. And that's the point, is that it's just to be able to, just period, the ability to affect the game at every level, whether you're on the ball, and like you were saying, why it was so great to be able to improve yourself individually. It's fantastic that you can improve your team without even actively touching the ball, but that you will eventually. And having that, being cognizant of it, and then affecting the chances of your team to win, I think is a fantastic part of the sport.
Well, and this is, I said right before we went on, when I asked what the topic was, and I said I could talk for days about this topic. That one diatribe, if you will, that you just had, literally just made me think of like 4 different topics that I could bring up. there was something that Bill Russell said that, everyone talks about points. Everyone talks about, rebounds. Everyone talks about assists. He said, but there are 5 guys on the court for your team. There's 1 ball. So, okay, if the ball's in your hand 20% of the time, what are you doing the other 80%? That's what decides the winner. What are you doing the 80% of the time the ball is not in your hands? That is what determines what team wins.
Yeah.
And that's what 99.9998% of people that play basketball have no concept of. What do you do when you don't have the ball in your hands? Because that's most of the time. Are you being productive?
Yeah.
Or are you a mannequin? Or are you just out there? Are you what was it? A speed bump. You might get in the way of someone, but other than that, what are you doing? What are you doing when you don't have the ball in your hands? Now, here's the math of it, okay? And this is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of wannabe all-stars out there. For the 3 people that see this, if you're not going to be the superstar on an elite team, then that puts you, if it's a 12-person team, that puts you, in 92% of not being the man on the team. And then when you're on the court, 5 guys on the court, 1 ball, 80% of the time, you're not going to have the ball. So you're in 92% of the team, and then you're in 80% when you're on the court. You need to be effective during that time. Not during if you get 3 shots a game, it's not what are you going to do with those 3 shots? What are you going to do with your 3 rebounds? What are you going to do with your 2 assists and your 1 steal? What are you going to do? That accounts for what? 3 shots, let's say 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. You've touched the ball 10 times. You've gotten stats off 10 touches. How many minutes are you on the court? Is that productive? What are you doing other than that? And that's the thing. And one thing that you talked about there, one way to develop that is when you're talking with, say, you're playing, let's just say a 3-on-3 game, right? At the park. You don't even know the other guys, right? You're just up there. It's a throwaway game.
Yeah.
No one keeps, you keep score, but no one goes home going, hey, I was, in pickup today, I was 6-2, or no one remembers. Nobody remembers how many, your scoring average in pickup games at this park and that park. And, oh, well, my assist average is up when I play over at that schoolyard over across town. None of this matters. You're just going to play. Everyone just wants to play. So I was at a tryout, and we were doing 3-on-3 half-court drills with 1 center, 1 forward, 1 guard, all split up. Mm-hmm. And they made teams, and then we did a round-robin tournament. And an assistant coach pulled me aside, and he said, what I want to see from you is make your team win without getting a point or an assist. Okay, well, I'm 33% of the team's offense.
Yeah.
3 people. And I'm the guard. So I'm like the point guard. I'm the one handling the ball. So my percentage theoretically would actually be higher.
Yeah.
But I have to be productive without scoring a point or getting an assist. How do you do that? So I had to figure it out. So thus comes the hockey assist.
Yeah.
I would throw a pass to the forward where I would bait the man covering him. I had to pinpoint my pass and throw it at the exact point and at the exact speed where that defender thought he was going to be able to get a steal. And I could sucker him out of his defensive stance. And he'd lunge for the ball. But he was never going to get it, because the entire point of me putting the pass in that spot was to bait him.
Yeah.
My guy, my forward, gets the ball. His man has now stepped into the passing lane thinking he had an easy steal and is out of defensive position. So now my forward goes to the basket and has a 2-on-1 against the defensive center. Either he scores or gets an assist, and then our center either scores or he's there for an offensive rebound.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing out top. It appears all I did was throw an inbounds pass. But what I did was initiate a scoring play. I got neither an assist, I got neither a point. But I made the play happen.
Yeah.
By consciously putting the pass and having the skill to be able to put the ball exactly where I want it, first off. Being able to throw it at the exact speed that I knew I needed to throw it at, where he thought it was slow enough that he could grab it, but it was deceptively fast enough that he was never going to touch it.
Yeah.
You know? And those type of sucker plays, practice those all the time, because getting that hockey assist is so important. When people talk about Bill Russell not being a great offensive player, watch old footage and watch. Now, he has the third highest assist average of any center ever.
Mm-hmm.
Only Wilt and Jokic are over him. He's a better assist man than Hakeem, Ewing, Shaq, Kareem, anyone you name. He's better than all of them. But people still say he had no offense. And if you actually track his hockey assists, it's even higher.
Yeah.
He calls defensive shifting. That's what you want to do. Learn to make the difference between being able to make it at one level and not make it isn't how fancy you dribble and how many chest passes at the basket from 35 feet you can make. Okay? Whether you make it at the next level is whether or not you can make your defender turn his head or take one step one way or the other to him to pull himself out of a play, to create a driving lane or a passing lane, an avenue for your teammate to score. That's all you have to do. I once played a game in San Antonio, Texas, with a bunch of kids, ages, I guess the youngest ones were like 12, the biggest ones were like 18. They were grown. They were like seniors. And I was in my early 30s at that point. And no, late 30s. And I tried explaining this because a couple of the kids, the younger kids, were on the middle school team.
Yeah.
And I was showing them how to control a game.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, guys coming down on off, I said, okay, my guy is going to take the shot. When my guy takes the shot, I want you to take off to the other end. Don't wait. Don't look to see where the ball goes. As soon as my guy shoots, you take off.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, how do you know your guy's going to shoot? And I said, because I'm going to make him think he has the shot. Because I watched before the game, and the guy I'm covering, all he did was take 3-point shots from the wing. He made like 2. But that's all he did to warm up. That's all he did. So I say, I'll cover this guy. Not thinking about covering him, but thinking about what I was going to be able to do with the other 4. So I watched this guy shoot, and every time he missed, mostly it came off to the same spot. So I sloughed off him, dropped back and wide open. His own teammates yell at him to shoot it. So he takes the shot. My kid takes off to the other end. I run to the spot where the rebound is going to come to most of the time. Ball comes right in my hands. I turn, throw it down court for the bunny. My guy's already at the other end, just puts the ball in.
Yeah.
We score in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're like, Well, how do you know your guy was going to take the shot? How did you know where the ball was going to come off? And how did you know that I should just take off to the other end? It's like, because I know how to play the game. It's not about how fancy you dribble. It's not about how, your shooting repertoire. If all you can do is make layups, that doesn't mean you're lousy. You just need to learn how to get the layup.
Yeah.
And you can go 10 for 10.
Well, and that's something, another aspect of you weren't specifically talking about this, but one thing that I find that makes basketball so great again too is the different ways you can play as a team. Because I talked about the different ways you could play as a player. I mentioned, and we both talked about these, but I also mentioned how you can be effective off the ball, and then we've been talking about that. But the different ways that you can play the game. If you want to primarily focus on the half court, you're able to sit there for 24 seconds rawly without offensive rebounds or a dead play and bringing it back. But the point of it is that you're able to scheme and plan and have a strategy to be able to score or defend, because it goes both ways in this concept, against a team in that small region where you have to be more specific on what you're doing. Not that you don't have to be on the fast break. However, both of them, if you're very effective on them, are gonna lead to scoring. And I think they're everything is intertwined and interwoven, and you got to do all of these things. However, I think a lot of teams will focus on certain aspects of, well, we want to be great in transition on offense or defense, or we want to be great at more so in the half court. And I mean, please tell me after this if you think that's incorrect. I know that you go and you train for both. Everyone generally trains for both, but I think there's specific principles or theories or ways that a lot of coaches want to approach the game for their players that they lean on, whether it be a half-court set or a principle, because they're even with the triangle offense or the Princeton offense, or or in contrast to just focusing on the fast break with the transition offense. But the point of it is that, again, you're able to affect the game in completely different play styles. It's either you're moving fast and you're communicating and you're coordinating to get the quick bucket, or you're going in the half court and you're doing all of these movements and all of these schemes and all of these team coordinated efforts through plays to be able to score the basket. And in contrast, on defense, you've got guys that are going to crash the boards and try to focus everyone getting the rebound so they can set up the half court play on the other side of the court. Or you got guys that, like you said, are going out on the break. So it's amazing how in an ideal circumstance you can manipulate the game by choosing to do either of them at any given time. So you have to always be on your feet. And it's just that what's so great about it too is that it's practically the game is constantly going. So even if somebody scores the basket, you get the ref and they pass the ball in, but you can still get a fast break point, because usually that's a really quick part of a technical part of the game. So the referee gives the ball to the player, they can still pass it in for a fast break score. Yeah.
After a made basket, the ref doesn't have to touch it. So it's even quicker.
Yeah. Okay, so the ref does not have to touch it after a made basket.
No.
Okay.
You just take it out of the net, step out of bounds, and throw it. Remember that Rambis used to do that all in one motion, where he would be jumping out of bounds and he'd grab the ball out of the net, land 1 foot out of bounds, and then fire it to Magic at midcourt, and they're already going down the other end, because they called him in the finals for his foot being on the line, and he went nuts. You know, he was lit.
Okay, yeah. And that's across all levels, generally speaking. You do not need a referee to give you the ball.
Well, an international ball, even on out of bounds, refs don't have to touch the ball.
Okay.
There were plays where I literally jumped into the stands, grabbed the ball, and threw it inbounds to a teammate to start a break.
Yeah.
And I was still, when we scored at the other end, I was still in the stands trying to get out. unless the ref blows the whistle for fan interference, then the play just keeps going. Once a fan grabs the ball, then it's dead. But if the ball is going out and it hit, you know, I don't remember what it hit a seat, hit the, you know, whatever. And I jumped out there in the corner, deep corner, and grabbed it almost by the corridor and just turned and threw it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
well,
the play just keeps going.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even still, regardless of my my mistake of the rules,
Well, no, what I'm saying is it's even more.
Yeah.
When you talk about the styles, it's even more of what you're saying. You know, you're really right on about styles. Now, what I always did was when I played on the playground, it was always run, break, go. Because that was my fitness. That was my, you know, making quick decisions under pressure, you know, as you're moving forward, that type of thing. And then when we got into official practices, let the coaches teach you the half court and what they want.
Yeah.
You know, do it, you know. That's how I say, for a point guard, what is the most important skill?
I think the ability to make decisions effectively. I think to elaborate, understanding when to pass, understanding when to communicate, and however that's being done to effectively score the basket on the offensive side.
The most important, and this goes into that, but the most important skill for a point guard is control the pace.
Yeah.
Just like quarterback, controlling the pace of the game is your most important role and the most important skill. Because what you want to do is make the other team play at a pace that they are not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And like when you say you want to be a fast break team, you want to be a slow down team, well, what you want is to go into a game where the guys in the other locker room, if you ask them that question, they don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
The team we're playing tonight, are they a fast-paced team or a slow-down team? Well, what you want to do is play off the other team. If the other team is a fast break team, then you want to slow it down. If the other team, you know, you mentioned the Princeton offense. If the other team runs the Princeton offense or the triangle, you want to run them.
Yeah.
You want to change the pace so they're uncomfortable. You control the pace. You control. It's like a pitcher in baseball. You know, now they have a pitching clock. You know, it's the quarterback, you know, where quarterbacks started getting the game manager title. You know, well, that's actually the most important thing.
Yeah.
Making the other team play your game is solely on the point guard.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point, is just essentially manipulating, whether it for the purposes of being able to score and being able to disrupt, not even just controlling the pace of what you can in the offense, but being able to disrupt their ability your opposing point guard to control their offense or defense.
Yep.
Not particularly point guard, but the team. And I think what do you think is the let me hold on to that. Let me keep that in my pocket. So I feel that because this is something that happened. I was watching a high school game for the high school that I went to, and I just thought it was interesting. And I don't know enough about basketball to know if this is a common thing, but my team was really good at the time, or my school's team was really good at the time, and they came off against a rival in the first play of a defensive play that they had, and they just full court pressed their rival on the first play of the game. And I think that's another way to do it, just being able to take people off their pace of what you're saying, or different styles, just throwing a different look at them to disrupt their game plan per se, or their ability to input their great tactics to score or defend whatever side of the court they're on. But showing the full court press off of the first play, I would imagine, especially, it was effective too. I'm sure that's probably pretty disheartening if you're just getting full court press right off the bat and you can't even get up to the court, to the other side of the court. What are your thoughts on pressure leading off at the start of games? And I think and just to stay on the point of why it makes basketball so great, or what makes basketball so great, is just that capability to have that tone, to have that pace that you had mentioned, that a lot of other games can't provide. With football, you're running or passing. I know this is for the football people. I'm really just making it very simple, but everyone is still playing a role, and you know that the quarterback is going to be behind center in some way, getting a pass to initiate the play. In basketball, it's not like that. You don't know how they're going to affect it, because you're not playing off of a line of scrimmage where that's where the play starts. That's where your contest starts. It's off of that line of scrimmage. Basketball is just played within the confines of the baseline and the baselines and sidelines. So there is no starting point. Really, it's just you're somewhere on the court. I guess with the exception of jump balls. But the point of it is that, what is your thought on being able to, because you were talking about pace and controlling pace, about the capability to just switch the tone so dramatically on the drop of a dime, whether you're on defense or offense?
Well, yeah, it's the most important thing, because, and what I would say when it comes to, like, if you're going to full court press right off the technically the second play of the game, you do that against, if you're going against an inexperienced backcourt, or if you have an inexperienced front court. That takes the pressure off your big men by pressuring full court. Like say your center is nursing a bad knee or a bad ankle. He's still playing, but he's not 100%. The other team is going to go, okay, we're going to run. We're going to make him get up and down the court on that bad wheel.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you say, okay, we're going to full court press to slow down their advancement of the ball, so our guy can get back with a leisurely jog and not a sprint. And hopefully we can save that ankle, save that knee, and he can play a full game and be productive. You do it to take stress off your front court and put stress on an inexperienced backcourt. If you're going into a game, let's just say high school, the other team has a sophomore point guard, or both guards are both sophomores, highly skilled. That's why they're sophomores and starting on varsity, but they're still inexperienced. So let's full court press them from the beginning, and let's see what they can do with it. Maybe they'll make some mistakes. Maybe they'll tire themselves out early. Let's see how that goes. Those are the times you would want to do something like that. If the other team has an all-conference point guard, you don't full court press.
Yeah.
Because this is something that in first basketball camp I ever went to, we're doing this breakdown drill where it's basically like once again, it's 3 guys. You're at the top of the key. You got a guy on each side on the baseline, and they make their cuts and their picks and all that, and you break down your man and get in the lane, or you make a play and all this. And coach stopped, and he asked me, because I was just getting in the middle to the same point every time. And he asked me, he was like, well, when the ball first gets in your hand, what do you see? And I say, the backline defenders are the first thing I look at. Because I don't base what I'm doing off watching my teammate. Never look at your teammate when they're standing still. 2 reasons. Number 1, it tells every defender where he is without having to look for him. And second, usually when you look at a teammate right in the eyes, they stop.
Yeah.
So I never looked at my teammates. I was aware of my teammates, but I looked at the defenders.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what about the guy covering you? And I said, what about him? He says, well, what do you do with him? I said, he's already dead. I don't even pay attention to him because I know I'm getting around him.
Yeah.
And they thought that was really cocky at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the truth. I wasn't very skilled, but I was super fast and super quick.
Yeah.
So I knew my natural advantage. I'm getting around this first guy. If he gets right up on me, I'm going around him. It doesn't matter who he is. I'm going around him. Now it's a 3-on-2. So I'm looking at the 2 defenders, which direction their hips are turned and where their eyes are looking. And if you got 2 guys on the baseline and you see both of them turn their hips to the right, then my pass is going to the left.
Yeah.
If you see both hips turn to the left, my pass is going to the right. Because instantaneously, when the ball gets to my teammate, his defender is out of position because his hips are turned.
Yeah.
So now my guy has a better chance of being successful because I've given him the ball when he's ready and his defender isn't.
Yeah.
If I see both defenders turn their hips to the men they're covering, then I take the ball all the way in. And whichever one comes to me first, I then pass to the guy he's leaving. It's just that easy. It's like chess with beating hearts.
Yeah.
And that's all basketball. That breakdown is all you need to know to be successful.
Yeah.